Yes, must remember to take that picture down. Uh, hello and welcome to NUFC Matters. And it's Liam Kennedy night tonight. And yeah, as many of you might have noticed, I'm not Steve Wraith. Even though I got a haircut, I'm not Steve Wraith. Steve is away on his holidays and so he's enjoying himself. He sends a little picture. He's also taking care of a little bit of business. 7 days a week, the man never stops. He never yeah, got that one back at you, Steve. Yeah, so just first of all, Liam, welcome to the show. And I noticed from your name tag, you've been up to something a bit different this week. Tell us all
Yeah,
about it.
yeah, we kind of spoke about it a few weeks back, maybe it was a month or so ago, and I previewed it a little bit early. Got a little slap on the wrist for that, but but most people who watch out there probably know that I've been taking part in sort of heading up a new project, and you can see the little tag down there at Newcastle_world. If you search that out on Twitter, it's kind of a new website that was set up. It's the same company, JPI Media. And it's not only just going to be about Newcastle United. It's a little bit wider than that. You can see that the bars at the top there. There's a bit of news, home lifestyle, restaurant-y, bars, all that kind of thing. It's just a look on the positivity around the city that we all love. Of course, I'm meant to try and take some kind of positive stance on the footballing side of things, but it 2 games into a season and I'm already on the negatives. I can't get away from it. But yeah, that's a little look there. Cheers for getting that up, Daz. Anybody out there wants to give it a follow, just it helps me out at Newcastle_world and check it out. It's part of a launch with JPI. We're going into cities across the country. Just taking quality local journalism back to the cities. We think we've got a good team. We're doing Manchester World, Liverpool World, Birmingham World, London World. There's Glasgow already launched. There's also Wales World as well. So it's a really exciting project, and I'm really excited to be part of the Newcastle arm of that as well. So yeah, check it out. There'll be lots of stuff, the kind of stuff that you would like normally to read from me on the Gazette, but just with a different twist as well. It's more... it's based on an American model, really. And the only thing I could compare it to in this country is a kind of explainer type, like the newspaper explainer types. But yeah, it'll not just be sort of this is what's happening. It'll be what impact that has on you, what impact that has, whether it's a political decision, for example, on the news side of things. It'll not just be that's the decision being taken and this is what people are saying about it. It'll be more about how that would affect you as a person, and what impact that'll have on society as well. On the footballing side of things, for example, I try and take that into Newcastle United saying Joe Willock, what impact that does have on Newcastle United? What impact does it have on the transfer business? These kind of things. And it's just like a little look beyond the initial news, and delving into the facts and statistics and opinions behind that as well. And one thing I want to say before we move on to the questions, because I know there's always a timer on my first answer of this show. So I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet today. But yeah, I wanted to mention that I've lost my own track there. What was I going to say? Yeah, I wanted to mention fans. I want as many of you guys out there to get involved as possible. There's going to be lots of times where I'll be asking you to say, what do you want me to write about? What do you want to talk about? What are the topics of the week? What are the topics of the day? So feel free. If there's ever anything you want to get off your chest, everybody out there knows, who probably follows me, that my DMs on Twitter in particular are always open. I keep my Facebook private. That's a family thing. So anybody out there, apologies if I don't accept your Facebook requests. Instagram, bit of half and half. But if you come to us on Twitter, DM us on Twitter. I'll always try and respond to you and give you answers that as best I can to any questions that you have. But please reach out at us and let us know what you want to talk about, and I'll get you involved as well.
Cool. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed the website. I took a look at the start of the week, and now I check it every day. The new breaking story, see what the latest is from you, Liam. So yeah, let's get into your normal rant then. You won't have much to rant about, I'd say, over 2 losses in the first 2 games of the season. And Steve Bruce in his press conference today. So yeah, let it all out, Liam.
Look, I think it's the start of the season that nobody would have wanted. 2 defeats to teams that on paper you would look at and say are teams that Newcastle United can take points against. West Ham are good, but I think they'll come a cropper later in the season when they hit the Europa League, etc. I think we should have got points out of that game. But look, and you would normally say on any given season, a West Ham home game would potentially be 3 points. It certainly was last season. And Aston Villa away has been a really unhappy hunting ground for Newcastle United for quite some time now, actually. But they are the type of team that can be got at. And I did think for much of the game, they were there for the taking. I was down at Villa Park on Saturday. I know there's been a lot of negativity. I didn't think it was as negative as many people thought. My opinion on that was that there wasn't much in the game. It wasn't a great game. It wasn't. The bar was set quite low, but Newcastle United were probably the better side in that first half. And I would say the difference between the two sides, in my opinion, again, just my opinion, was just a tale of two strikers, two England fringe strikers. One who took his chance amazingly well, and another one who created a chance for himself and couldn't take it at the other end, and that was Callum Wilson not being able to take a chance, and Danny Ings being able to take one. That was the only difference in that first half, really, which you would argue Newcastle United shaded. Then when they're chasing the game, I thought the change for Sean Longstaff coming on for Isaac Hayden, even though it was enforced, actually did bring a bit of urgency and a bit of a little bit more. Just gave them a little bit something extra in midfield. Longstaff was keen to take the ball, move it wide quicker, turn around and just be more progressive and positive, which Isaac Hayden doesn't really have in his locker, unfortunately. Look, I like Isaac Hayden, but he's a limited midfielder. And I think Sean Longstaff, every time you kind of marry yourself with the idea that Sean Longstaff, you make your mind up about him. He can't make an impact. I watched him all pre-season, and I probably criticised him on here, saying, look, that position was one of those midfield spots before Joe Willock was signed, was there to be taken by Sean Longstaff, and he was terrible in pre-season. Didn't snatch the opportunity. And I've just made me mind up on him and said, right, that's the end. Okay, probably best that he moves on for everybody. And then he comes on in the second half and almost shines a little light on the type of thing that when he first broke into the team, that is playing in that deeper role and looking quite progressive and positive. And I thought, you're pulling us in again, Sean. Why are you doing this? I did think second half, they're chasing things. I thought the 2 VAR decisions... 3 VAR decisions, actually, because there was the one, they had a look at Jacob Murphy one, which for me, I can pinpoint as a point in the game which did turn things around, really. Because it got the crowd going, and that was about the moment where Aston Villa started to pile the pressure on before half-time. Got the crowd going because he dived. He effectively did dive. He was expecting the contact and went over. Thought that VAR decision was correct. The handball's a handball. I think if it's given the other way, you're absolutely expecting it to be a penalty because there's no guarantee that Freddie Woodman's getting back to stop that or anybody else is stopping that ball going at the back of the net. It's an absolute penalty for me. And I think the only question marks I could have about Callum Wilson's one was, look, if it's offside, it's offside, but it's bloody close.
The whole foot thing and the enlarged foot and
Look, and I'm
marginal.
Look, somebody out there who's probably more technically savvy than me in some way, but I just find these like angled shots because of where TV cameras are on the sidelines, etc., make it really difficult for you to tell if something's offside or not. And I think you can see somebody on Twitter will draw a line saying, well, he's not offside, and somebody else will look at the same photo and draw a different line and he will be offside. It's look, I just hope
that line is.
Yeah, I just hope they're not doing that in Stockley Park. Got the ruler out and just checking it up. Is that right?
Exactly.
So, no, look, I don't think Newcastle particularly deserved anything out of the game, but nor did I think they really deserved to lose the game. I thought it was one of those that it always felt like in that first half, one goal decided it, 2 decided it in the end, but it was always going to be a tight affair. And look, anybody who watches this show regular will know I'm not a happy clapper for Steve Bruce and the way that they're trying to do things. But I can kind of see some of where he's coming from when he says I can see bits of positives. Look, I'm not saying there are positives. There aren't any positives from the first 2 games of the season, essentially, if you look at the bigger picture. But I can see little bits of what he's talking about. Look, I think they're keeping the ball better. I do think they're having more possession. It's marginal, but they are better than they were this time last season at doing that. And I think they're creating more chances. I think Callum Wilson's probably had more chances in the first 2 games this season than he's probably had in probably the 6 he played previous to that. And that for me they're not positives. They're not essentially positives, but they are little themes that hopefully if they continue throughout the season, I would suspect Newcastle United will probably pick up more points than they'll lose. But look, this can't go on, and that's the big thing, isn't it? you're going to play a weekend side tomorrow, of course. And I think it's difficult to argue that you would play a full strength side tomorrow. But what I would say is that you're playing an under-strength Burnley, who are in a very similar situation, haven't made any signings really of note themselves. And I think it's a perfect opportunity just to get that winning mentality back. And then you kind of, as a fan base, go into a home game on Saturday with a little bit more positivity, a little bit, there might be something there. Whereas if you get beat, then everybody's ready they've already got the knives sharpened. So it could make for a tricky atmosphere on Saturday. But look, I think they should go out and win. And I do think they will win. I think they'll win tomorrow. I'll be there at St. James's, as I'm sure a lot of people out there will be too. I'm expecting them to win. I'm expecting Joe Willock to get some minutes. It was one thing that Steve Bruce addressed today, and I think that's key. It's been a theme of the questioning over the last week or so in press conferences. Is he fit enough? Is he ready to come in? And Steve Bruce has always said yes. I didn't think he looked fit on Saturday. I thought he was struggling to cover the ground. Came with a bit of a second wind in the second half and looked better. But I think that would have done him the world of good, getting those 90 minutes in. I think he came off in the 91st minute or 89th minute, something like that. And I think I would expect him, I would hope that he'll at least get, I hope he starts, and I would hope he'd get at least an hour under his belt again before the weekend, because ultimately this Carabao Cup game for him should be treated as a pre-season game he missed. It's an ideal opportunity really for somebody like that who's just come through the door. And look, you can probably put a couple of people like that in that bracket as well, who would probably play in the game. And one that I'm looking at is Miguel Almiron, because he missed a lot of pre-season with injury. I would play him tomorrow. Jamal Lascelles missed a lot of pre-season. I would play him tomorrow. And there's a couple of others as well that I would just make sure there's a solid enough first team spine in there to go and get a good result against a second string Burnley, but also give others minutes and give others a chance to maybe prove themselves, because there are question marks about certain players in the first team. I took a little bit of criticism from a couple of people on Twitter today, talking about a decline in Jacob Murphy's performances, but I think he's been poor in the first two games of the season. I think he's been found out defensively. Big style, and I think that's something that needs addressed. Does he need a little bit of cover? He had a much more robust barrier in Fabian Shaw behind him in that 5-3-2 that they play.
Was he much better?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
No, I thought he was better, but they need more than that. And Jacob Murphy, it was a clear target. Dean Smith's obviously worked on that in the training ground, because it was Ashley Young and Anwar El Ghazi basically just doubled up on Jacob Murphy straight away, and when he pushed up, just popped into the gap behind him, and it was so obvious and so easy for them to do that. That's something that if I was Steve Bruce, I'd seriously be looking at, because he has got players who can play that position. Javier Manquillo doesn't seem to fancy. Could easily play that position, and I would like to see Manquillo play tomorrow. I'd like to see Jamal Lewis play, and I'd like to see 2 or 3 others just really try and stake a claim to get in that first team, because it's not as settled first 11 as it was at the back end of last season. I don't believe it's of the same nature now.
Cool. So I'm just flying through the comments. I am listening to you, but I am looking at the comments as well. What do you make of the Steve Bruce's press conference and his announcement of the injuries? And I guess the big one is Dubravka, and 8 weeks is what I saw, and then I saw it on Sky later. I said 10 weeks. So and then the whole question about the keepers and the spaces in our squad, having 4 keepers in that 25. What's your thoughts on all that?
Look, they find themselves in a difficult position. I would be astonished if you named 4 in a 25-man squad, despite the fact that really they don't 100% know the timescale upon which 2 of those 4 will be back. I think it'd be quite a remarkable thing to do, because really, if obviously Matty Longstaff's going to leave the football club, there's 2 or 3 championship clubs are really, really keen on him. There's been talks, and I think he's quite close to leaving for one of them. That frees up a gap that takes you down to 25. Then if you take one of the 4 goalkeepers out, by my workings out, then you're down to 24, and you've got space to then maybe strengthen, whether that be a defender, whether that be maybe a bit of a ball playing midfielder who can step in when Shelby's not there. Yeah, I think it would be an opportunity wasted to name 4. I can see some of the reasons. I've heard the reasons why they're thinking about it. Caldala was in hospital not all that long ago. They had players last season, like Alan St. Maximin, Fede Fernandez, who really took a long time to shake off COVID. And I think it will be a big risk to suddenly pencil in and say Caldolo's been in training a week and a half, 2 weeks now, that all of a sudden he'll be back in 2 weeks' time, because you just don't know how this COVID affects certain people. It affects everybody differently. And if anybody's read Caldolo's interview recently, I think he did it with the Times. It was quite an incredible read, to be honest, talking about razor blades, his throat closing up. It was quite, it affected him really, really badly. And you just don't know how long that's going to hang around in him, and whether he's going to be quite up to speed. He lost a lot of body weight, a lot of muscle. So he's almost having to do a double treble pre-season to get himself up to where he was before. That's without even getting minutes in games and time between the sticks. So yeah, I think they can see the problem there, that they can't put that time for him. Dubravka has had that infection. Again, it's another thing you can't say with any degree of certainty exactly when. And although there was a date given on it today by Steve Bruce, the context of it, and anybody who's watched back the video, it was very tentative. He actually, in very Steve Bruce manner, started the sentence off by saying, "I'm not going to put a time frame on this, but..." And then came out.
I saw that. Well, you knew, that's all that was missing in that that one.
And then he said 8 weeks. 8 weeks takes you to mid-October. And I've seen a lot of people speculating today, saying, "Well, he's the one who's out the longest. Just bin Dubravka out the 25. Dubravka is the best goalkeeper at the football club, hands down." I've seen Craig Hope of the Daily Mail made a really interesting point today that Dubravka wins you more points than he'll lose you. He wins points alone for Newcastle United. We've seen it at the back end of last season, how much of a calm, assured prominence he has in the box. He's commanding. He's a good shot stopper, makes the odd mistake, but what goalkeeper doesn't? He wins more points for Newcastle United throughout a season than he loses. And Newcastle United it's the fine margins. Steve Bruce talked about fine margins in football, and Caldolo, for all being a decent keeper, isn't as good as Dubravka. What we've seen of Freddie Woodman so far, and I'm not going to judge the lad because he's young-ish in goalkeeper terms, inexperienced in Premier League terms, and it isn't playing in a side playing all that well, conceding a lot of goals. His confidence can't be all that high. So I'm not going to judge him, but I would swap Dubravka in from now, because Newcastle need that experience, need that calm, assured dominance from a goalkeeper. So yeah, I think it's a funny one. Should they name 4? Not in my opinion. I think look, the way I look at it is, if you named a couple who are fit, well, you name your 2. I mean, look, we've still got a week or so left. I think there's going to be a late decision taken on whether Caldolo is getting closer to fitness. And I think if Caldolo's getting closer to fitness, then you might then see a 3 named. But if there was a crisis in a specialist position, and I'm going to check this out with the Premier League this week, but if there's a crisis in a specialist position, what are the rules and protocols in place? They're not going to suddenly expect you to throw Miggy Almiron in goal if all your keepers are injured. They allow you to sign goalkeepers from outside of the squad. So I don't necessarily think there's going to be the need to name 4, but that doesn't mean that he won't name 4. And I think the way he's talking, and has constantly been talking about that since, I think he first brought it up maybe at Burton or the Rotherham game in pre-season. I think the theme is that he probably will name 4, and that'll just be a waste, in my opinion.
No, I'd agree. I agree with that, Liam. Let me throw a few names at you, right, and see if you call it bullshit or potential for something to happen. So the first name is the one that's you mentioned in your own article today, is Chowdhury. Do you think that's a runner for a loan deal? He's still not getting a game at Leicester. I see him running the touchline the whole time, but not getting a game.
Yes, I think there is a possibility there. Look, I've said this before, and it looked like they were looking at trying to do deals. Speaking to Steve Bruce today, it sounds like not so much. I think unless they can free room in their squad, then I think that they might not do any more business. But I think Hamza Chowdhury is at the top of that list of people that they want to do business for. Steve Bruce is a big fan. It came really, really close to happening in January. It was literally just a case of being signed off and the lad coming up. And Brendan Rodgers pulled the plug on it. It's a shame because, look, I don't think he's the greatest Premier League player, but do I think he could improve Newcastle United's side? Yes, I do, because I think there's a lack of quality in certain areas in that midfield. I think he would sit in. He would be playing now with John Joe Shelby out, and he has got a little bit more of the passing and progressive passing about him. He can also put his foot in, as we know.
Ask Richie.
So yeah, I think he would be a decent signing, and I do think it's one that could be rekindled in the last week of the season, the last week of the transfer window. Sorry, because Steve Bruce is a big fan. So I think that, look, I'm not going to rule that one out. I like it. My stance now when we're talking these transfers is that, do I definitely think they'll sign one more player? No, I don't definitely think they will. I think they've spent all of their money on Joe Willock because they've spent more than and Bruce has spent more than he expected to get. He was briefing, obviously, wasn't he, at the start of the summer, that he was only getting 10 million to spend. That was coming out through him. So that's probably about what he'd been told he might have. But as I said throughout the summer, that Newcastle United is a little bit more fluid than that. With if they see somebody that can buy Joe Willock, 21, improving, fantastic run the back of last season, would they pay the money? They did. They went out and paid the money. Now I don't think they will. I don't think they'll go out and sign anybody else now. I think that's the money spent. But can they do loan deals? It's going to be a case of, can they get players out the door? And to be honest, there's players on the fringes of this squad that you couldn't sell. I mean, Jeff Hendrick. I mean, how do you go about selling Jeff Hendrick? He's a player that they'd quite happily move out the door. Kieran Clark. How would you go about Emil Kraft? Is there going to be any takers?
No.
It's a hard sell, isn't it? I think
especially the wages they're on as well. You're never going to get rid of them. How about, I'll throw this one at you, because there's a few people have said in the comments as well, which I haven't really got to any of the questions in the comments yet, but because there's too many. So how about this one that's been talked about is potential with, we know Matty is going to go on loan somewhere next week. We don't know where that is yet. There's a list of clubs looking at him. But how about Sean Longstaff to Everton and James Rodriguez heading to Newcastle in some fashion? I don't think, for me, he's not a player you want in a relegation dogfight, which we inevitably will be in. He's a good player, but will he have the mentality for it? And or is it just bullshit in the first place?
I think you know the answer to the second one. I'm not even gonna go down that avenue. It's just lunacy. But the first one, look, James is a player that Rafa Benitez has made a big decision on and said he goes. Look, the lad's on the best part of 200 grand a week at a club like Everton, and he needs to be pushed out the door to make sure that Benitez can then start to bring players in elsewhere around the side. Benitez has got that problem that he probably needs to shift 2 or 3 out the door before a bid for a Sean Longstaff might come in, or he needs to be looking like he's getting people out the door. James being one of those. A couple of other names have been mentioned to me in that department. Trying to think who they were. There's a couple of lads in their centre midfield. Gomez might be one that's pushed out the door. There's another couple, but Benitez needs to trim a little bit, and then you could see a move. He does like him. He really likes Sean Longstaff. And that could be one that comes up towards the end of the window. But Sean Longstaff's probably got 2 games this week for me to cement a place in that side, and it could change Newcastle United's thinking. Matty Longstaff, of course, will leave. I'm not sure which club it is that he's going to be going to, but there are, I think there was 3-4 inquiries. Huddersfield, Nottingham Forest, from memory, and there was a couple
Sheffield
of others.
United and Blackburn as well were the other 2 I saw listed.
Yes, so I mean, any of those would be a fantastic fit for Matty Longstaff. The lad's not really kicked much of a ball for 2 years. He needs to go out. It's been a real stagnation of his development, and the best thing he can do is go out and play games, and hopefully he can go. He needs to go to a club where he's going to get opportunities. He needs to go to a club where he's guaranteed to play every week. It's no good him going somewhere and sitting on a bench and getting in and out. He needs to go and play. He needs to go and sign a season-long loan, and he needs to go and He needs to go and play in 35, 40 games in the Championship, in cups, etc., and really just come back to Newcastle United next summer, ready to walk in and battle anybody who's there for those centre midfield spots. Because I do think the lad's got a bit about him. There's some others in and around the squad who look. Speaking of people who are in and around the youth team, one that doesn't suit the system that Newcastle play, this 5-3-2, 3-5-2, whatever you want to say. But Elliot Anderson's one that the lad's special. He's got something, really has got something about him. And it sounds like, from the little noises that I've been hearing in and around the club, that he had that resting period with his hip, and he seems to be over that now. They seem to be over the worst of it, over the resting period, and he's starting to come back. And I think he's one that you could see pushing a few in the first team. Joe White's another who again, a supremely confident lad, fantastic left foot. Both talented young lads who need nurtured, they need pushed in the right direction. None of this rubbish which we've seen with the two Longstaffs, because arguably these two have got more talent and could be better players than the two Longstaffs who've broke into the fringes of the Newcastle team. These boys could be starters for Newcastle United for the next 5-6 years. And they're only 17, 18 years old. They need to be nurtured right.
Liam, just one that's come up here in the comments now that I'm looking at them properly and reading them. I saw this wrote somewhere today. I don't think it'll happen, but any have you heard anything about Hayden to Watford?
Look, well, there was at the start of the summer, there was a lot of talk of Southampton. I think it was Southampton. It kept coming back constantly. And I think Watford were linked back then as well. I asked the question behind the scenes, numerous sources at the club. And one thing that was never said to me, because I suggested, does that mean he's part of the plans next season? And nobody would go that far to say he was definitely part of the plans, which intrigued me at the time, because I didn't see him leaving. I don't see him leaving, not in this climate anyway. But there will be people interested in someone like Isaac Hayden. And look, if you could get 10 million plus for an Isaac Hayden, I'd probably take it personally. I like him. I think he's a good player, but I do think he's limited. I don't think he's a player of massive ability. And I don't think losing somebody like that, he couldn't be replaced. I like his attitude. I like his versatility. I like his tackling. He's a strong character. Got a lot of good things about him, Isaac Hayden. But would he be one that was 100% starter in any team that I picked? No, he wouldn't be. And for that reason, you've got to say, if you could make a little bit of money, and as long as it was reinvested elsewhere, would you let an Isaac Hayden go potentially? But do I see that one? Do I see that one progressing over the next, 6.5, 7 days or whatever now? Look, I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised if anybody like that is let go, unless there is a major changing round of thinking at the football club, where it gets to the point where you lose on Wednesday, you get stuffed on Saturday, and it's a bit like, right, we need to do something here. We need to change things around, do a bit of wheeling and dealing. Maybe letting a Longstaff or a Hayden go allows us to bring X, Y, and Z in departments we really need to strengthen. So I don't know.
Like a Babakar Kamara, or the Swedish lad who's playing in Denmark, Jans Kashush. I can't even pronounce his name, but yeah.
Look, there's interest in a lot of players. There's a lot of agent talk around at the moment, as you always get at this time of year.
Yeah.
And I think I was keen to stress that on this show last week or the week before, when those names were constantly cropping up with X bid, Y bid. I just said, just chill. Joe Willock's the one that they want. And if that money's spent, that's what they'll buy. They'll not then spend 25, then go and buy Kajust for 15 and Kamara for 20 odd. That just was never really going to happen. It was just, a lot of agent talk. There is interest, and they do like those players by all accounts. But I don't see deals progressing for those type of players. Look, that's probably going to be a disappointment for some people out there who are really keen for deals to go ahead. But it's just the reality of where we're at the moment. I think unless they receive some kind of decent bid for one of their players and then line up another couple of deals behind that for themselves, I just don't see a lot happening. There could be a loan deal. And like I say, somebody like a Hamza Chowdhury would be at the top end of that list.
Three more names to throw at you, Liam, and then we'll stop talking about transfer talk. This one that was just kind of the comical one that was on last week. The Santiago Munoz, not to be confused with Munez. Was that just pure crap, or was there any kind of truth behind that one, that he could potentially go into the youth teams and kind of or go out and loan or something like that, or is this all fancy or a marketing ploy?
I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know this one. It's not one that I've ever heard mentioned, but these type of things can sometimes come from left field. I've seen again there was reports from, it may have been sort of Central American reporters suggesting that he's very close to a move somewhere in Europe. Look, it could be another Vilka situation where they do tend to try and sign one or two if they can think they can get a bargain. But no, it's not one I'd heard. But I'm certainly not going to rule it out because, like I say, they are in the market to improve. And again, like I said, speaking to people in and around the football club, there is a sense that the second team this year, the 23s, is a little bit better than it was last year because of the recruitment that they've made. They brought the lad in from Chelsea. His name's just escaped. As they brought Savage in from Liverpool. There is like a steelier feel about their defence this year, and they feel like they've got 2 or 3 young lads in the likes of White, Anderson, and others who can really make a big impact at that level. So that can only be a positive. And if they can maybe add 1 or 2 others, then it might not be quite the disaster or the car crash that the 23s, 18s, etc. has been for Newcastle United over the last few years.
Yeah, I do see the names linked one summer, and then the next summer they're out the door again. It's a Scott from Chelsea, and the guy they got from Arsenal, and someone else they got from Celtic. It just doesn't work out, I guess. Yeah. Maybe there's a reason the clubs let them go in the first place. But yeah, you have to try. Yeah, like you might pick up a bargain. Just the last two on are one which is, I don't think will happen now because I think he's getting some game time, is a Skip from Spurs, and then Cameron Carter-Vickers from Spurs as well. And I know that Graham Jones likes to look at him. And anything happening there? Any potential for loan deal with any of those?
The first one, I would say no. I'd be very surprised if he leaves. And the second one, I think that he's a player they're very keen to push out the door. But again, it's about loan fees and transfer fees. A lot of clubs want to sell players at this point. A lot of clubs do often change their stance on players in the final hours, in the final days of windows, when they realise, look, we're not going to get what we want for this player, but we do want him out the door to free up room. So I could see maybe a Carter Vickers as a possible. But again, it's not one that I've checked up on recently because I know that he suffered an injury playing in Europe last week, and I'm not actually sure of the severity of that one. So if that's one that will keep him out for a month, 6 weeks, then I'd be surprised if Newcastle United would go for a player like that.
Cool. And someone had on about the Man United connection there with Steve Bruce. There's always talk of potential for Phil Jones to rock up. No, he's not going to be the pacey centre back that we need, but he for me he would be an improvement on Schär, and people may not like that, or Lascelles at times, but.
Look, I think Phil Jones is a decent player. I don't think he's the disaster that a lot of people make him out to be. He's a decent Premier League performer.
Yeah.
But like you say, is he exactly what Newcastle United want and need? No. It would be a bit of a marriage of convenience that he's available and he would come and we can get him through Steve Bruce's connections. Steve Bruce is a fan. He is a person who he likes the player a lot. But there's injury problems there. Long-term injuries that he's only really just been getting over in the last 6 months or so. So is he somebody that can definitely come in and make an impact, definitely be at the level that he was before? There's big question marks, but look, beggars can't be choosers. If you're scrambling about for scraps, sometimes you have to take risks on players like this. And I might take some criticism myself here. I'm not in principle totally against the idea of somebody like a Phil Jones coming to Newcastle United, because I do think if he is okay after the injuries problems that he's had, then look, I think he's a player that is possibly better than a few of the players that we've already got in those positions. Is he an upgrade on? I'm saying as if I'm a big fan of Fabian Schär. I do like Fabian Schär, but I think he's very limited defensively.
Under Rafa, he was good, but under Bruce, he hasn't performed at all for me.
No, I think Kieran Clark looks like he's struggling. I mean, the lad's getting to 31, 32 now. It happens to players. Sometimes you just go over that hill. I'm not saying he definitely has, but it doesn't look great for him. When I watched him in pre-season, I thought he was all at 6s and 7s, constantly in that position, and was really quite surprised that Steve Bruce didn't see that and consistently sort of went with him for the first game of the season. I was quite surprised. But is he an improvement on that? Yes. Is he an improvement on Emil Kraft? Yes. Look, some might say he's even an improvement on Jamal Lascelles. He probably is as well, and potentially even Freddy Fernandez at 32, going on 33 now. So yeah, I think I'm not against it in principle, but is it really what Newcastle United are looking for and want? No, their remit at the start of the summer, which has kind of been blown out of the water by the fact they've spent all their money on one player. Their remit was to go out and transform the defence, and it was to bring in more athleticism and pace. Just so happens they've kept all the eggs in one basket, and they won. They won the raffle with Joe Willock, but there's no other prizes left. He was the only prize that they could afford, really. So I don't know where that analogy was going, but I had to go with it.
Which reminds me, I better give a shout out to these sponsors. I might be needing to contact some of these guys when Steve watches this back. So yes, shout out to Darren Baldwin Funerals. The contact details are there if you ever need them. And if I wanted to start a bidding more, I'd also look towards LNG. So I may be in touch soon, guys, when Steve here watches this back. Also, shout out to Jab Signature. Shout out to John from QTech, who's in the chat tonight. Hey, John, hope you're on the mend. You're nearly there at this stage, hopefully. Shout out to Skips and Bins and Bobby the Bee, Sir Bobby. And also, shout out to Spider VPN. The guys, I think it's Gareth and the guys there. So that job done. That's one off the list. Yeah, I want to go back to, there was a comment there in the questions, and yes, was one or two about PIF, and the news and I took a screenshot of it here so we can have it. Yeah, so something popped up on Companies House, another company listed, I guess, PA UK Investment Limited. And then the whole question was, is this linked to PIF, trying to get around the system or having a backup plan? And then people are also saying, is this linked to McLaren and trying to tie the monies involved into that? And then there was the kind of talk about the details here of 75%, and that they aren't after 75% of McLaren. So of course there's numerous companies that they're after, and what's your thoughts on it, Liam?
I would say, look, I get the clamour for information, the desperation, the keenness to see the positive and everything, but I would just urge, all I'm going to say is, because I can't say with any definitive confidence that it is exactly linked. I can't also rule it out 100% and say it isn't linked. I'm on the fence a little bit with it, but all I would say, we've seen this before. There are a lot of things that the Saudis, in particular PF, are trying to do with regards to finance in the UK. There are some anomalies with this, the setting up of the new company. There are some links to dates as to when it's been set up and how it links to other companies, of course. I would just urge caution. That's all I would say to everybody out there. It's so easy to get yourself carried away and excited about something that could end up being nothing. It isn't definitely linked to Newcastle United and the purchase and the buyout. I think I said this on here before, and it's something that deeply frustrates me, is that there is something going on at the minute, and I'm going to sound like an absolute amateur here. Please come on, criticize if you want. There is something going on at the moment, and I just can't put my finger on what exactly it is. There is something going on at the moment. That's
the headline tomorrow.
Yeah, put that on your back. Put that on your back. Grab that. There's something going on. I know that'll be on news now, won't it? Liam Kennedy says something's going on.
Here's it up there already. Newcastle World. I don't see it.
Something's happening, but I don't know what it is. That sounds so ridiculous coming from somebody like me who should know certain things. But sometimes there is a lot of silence, and that's kind of like the place where we are at the moment. From the information that I've got from various sources, that all the most I can say on this is that it isn't absolutely quiet. There is something bubbling away. Okay. Is that, as some people have suggested online, is that a rival bid? Is that somebody else coming in and stepping in to take it away? Is there negotiations with the Premier League? Again, it's all speculation. I don't know what it is, but I was told that to keep an eye out on things moving forward, because there might be something. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's a positive thing, by the way. I'm not going to start setting hairs away in that sense, because I know there's enough people out there who do that anyway. And I'm not meaning to give anybody false hope, because I've said my stance on this at the moment is I've always said I'm hopeful, and I remain hopeful, but I'm less hopeful probably than I was a month ago, less hopeful than I was 3 months ago, and even less so than I was 6 months ago. But I think naturally, as time goes on, no. I think sometimes it's just sometimes we just have to wait and see. And look, I'm a fan as well. You know, there's nothing more than I want. I would love to be surprised. I don't even care if I get the story, or I get a hint, or get a tip off. If you told me now and said, like, it'll happen, but you'll know absolutely nothing about it, and you'll look like a fool as a journalist, I would snap your hands off. I would take it tomorrow. That if suddenly you were just out of the blue, taken over, brilliant. I'll be as happy as anybody else, and I'll be cracking the cans with all you lot out there quite happily. You'll see me dance around the big market. I'll be as happy as anybody that would see the back end of Mike Ashley, because it's as we all know, it's a grim existence. But going back to the original point and the original post, all I would say on that is I haven't heard anything that it definitely is. I've heard more people who know suggesting that it probably isn't. So what I would do is just urge caution, but I don't know either way definitely whether it is or isn't.
No, that's fair enough, Liam. Like, you can't. There's no point giving people false hope. But you're saying that there's potentially something bubbling away, but you don't know what it is. So that's fair enough. Yeah. You know what? I think it's time to change direction a bit. And I think last time I met you, Liam, I was sprung a bit of a surprise on you. So I'm going to do the same again. You know what time it is? It's cliche catchphrase for the transfer window. See what you see. Remember, Liam? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Your first one is, and is it all to do with the transfer window?
That's one I've used many a time.
Spinning plates, correct. Now you mightn't have said these, but they're transfer related. And
no, you're definitely putting them on because you know I've said them. You know. Seal the deal.
I've made them easier for you. I know you struggled last time, so I had to make them easier. So yes, seal the deal. Next one is.
I thought you said you were making it easy.
You could think of Alan Pardew saying this.
Oh, get it over the line.
Over the line. That's right. Next one is. See what you see.
See what I see.
What are they doing?
Carrying a net?
What are they doing? What are they moving?
Moving the goalposts.
Yes, correct.
You knew you'd get me stumped with these.
How easy do I have to make them the next time?
Very, very.
Back to your old favourite.
Ducks in a line. Line up the ducks. That's the one. That's all I like. That's all I like to hear. Yeah.
Nice one, nice one. So maybe we'll move to some questions
Yeah,
next.
see what people's got to say in the chat. See if we
Yeah.
can,
Find some questions. Like you covered a lot of the stuff as we were going along. So we were saying settlements out of court. It's not a question, but it's a suggestion. How could be happening?
So
Let's
yeah,
go
of
back.
course, that's something that could definitely happen. It's been something that has been the hope for everybody all the way along. But it does feel like the way the legal cases have gone, that a little bit of that leverage has been lost. But we'll just wait and see how it plays out. It's going to have to be one where we just everyone just got to stay calm and just be captivated by the football. Effectively, you're just going to have to concentrate on the rubbish on the pitch effectively, and just focus on that for a while, because takeover could happen quite quickly, but we could be sitting here in 6 months' time still talking about the same thing. So yeah, I think
we need a conclusion one way or the other in 6 months' time.
No, we do. Everybody feels that way.
Just a question. Like we're in a bad place now. Let's say after the 2 defeats, but yeah, we're going into a cup game tomorrow. He's going to mix up the squad a bit, give others a run out as well. Who need to stake a claim for and look, they can't do any worse than what's gone ahead of them the last 2 games. So, and with the game on Saturday as well against Southampton, where do you see us being at the end of come Sunday?
I don't know. I don't see we're losing either game this week. And I'm not. Maybe I'm being a bit too positive, but I don't see we're losing either game. So I could. What I'm saying is I could easily see we're getting through in the cup tomorrow, and then a draw on Saturday possibly. Would that be enough? I think that will be a disappointing return from the first 3 games, considerably less than you would expect. And would be -5 on the return that we had in those exact fixtures from last season. Could I say we're going beating Southampton on Saturday? Yeah, I could. And I think a lot of that could be defined by how much of it. If Newcastle are going to get beat 3-0 off Burnley tomorrow, even if it's second teams, it just isn't a good feel going into Saturday. So I think a lot could be defined by what happens tomorrow. But yeah, I don't see we're losing to Southampton, even though they look a decent side. They were a decent side last year as well, and Newcastle United definitely got the better of them at our place. And I think we'll be all right. I think we'll probably at least we'll not get beat this week, which would be a positive compared to last week.
Cool. I take that. Someone's asking as well. Sophia's asking about Ross Barkley and any more rumors around Ross Barkley. Yeah, I take him on a loan. I think we need a pacey defender and a defensive midfielder before him. But yeah, I definitely take him.
Yeah, I think Ross Barkley was probably like a backup option to Joe Willock. Yeah. I think that talk's kind of gone a little bit quiet. I haven't heard his name mentioned for a little while. But again, you never know at the end of the window. He's on big wages at Chelsea. He is somebody that they want to get out the door. So he will probably go somewhere. And Newcastle United were interested much earlier in the window. But like I say, I think it was probably the Joe Willock position that if that hadn't come off, you might have seen Ross Barkley come if there'd been more of a budget to play with, because it'll be a decent loan fee to get him in. And I know Newcastle United aren't keen to pay big loan fees for players. They've already lost 2 or 3 who've gone elsewhere this summer because of loan fees, because they were trying to keep all the money that they wanted if they had to pay full whack for Joe Willock, which is what they've had to do. So look, I think Newcastle United will be in that market if they can shift a couple out the door.
What's the chances, as Tom is saying, of Adam Armstrong scoring against us on Saturday?
Look, at the end of the day, it's not really one that I'm worried about. I think Adam Armstrong's a decent centre forward. He's got off to a decent start there at Southampton. It's a big role for him this year for Southampton, because you're filling some big boots in Danny Ings, who is a top class Premier League performer.
As we found out.
Yeah, I know, exactly. One chance and a fantastic finish. But he's a top class player. And Adam Armstrong's going to really have to step up levels this season. And it's within his power. So let's hope. Look, he's a Newcastle fan. He's a Geordie lad. I hope he goes there and does really well at Southampton. But I hope he has an absolute stinker on Saturday. I think most people will probably agree with that too.
just answered Tom's question there. Then the cat case, yeah, it's the jurisdiction part of it. It's the 29th of September.
Yeah.
I think I still have the tab open there on my laptop, but nothing's changed. When we wait till then, and we mightn't hear an awful lot come that date either. But we'll just have to wait and see. Yeah, people are asking again about just the moving players on.
Well, my understanding, as anybody who didn't catch it earlier, is obviously there's 26 players who qualify to fit into the 25 at the moment. Steve Bruce's keep talking about naming 4 goalkeepers. I think if he names 3, that comes down to 25. And then Matty Longstaff, who does now qualify because of his age, I think, that would take down to 24. And that's when you might see a lone player coming in. Matty Longstaff is certain to leave the club by next Tuesday evening. And I think a late decision will be made on the 4 goalkeepers. And I think a lot will depend on how Carl Darlow continues to recover over the next 7 days as to whether that they do go down that avenue of naming 4, which would effectively rule out any business, barring any random late bids for players.
Just to answer Dennis's question here, yeah, we did talk about Santiago Munoz back about the middle of the show. So after the show, head back and you'll see our comments on that. Potentially a marketing ploy, or yeah, you never know. That they do bring in, as Liam said, they do bring in 1 or 2 young lads and try and get them integrated into the squad and into playing in England as well, getting used to the English game. And we've got a question from George. Can you see formation change on Saturday?
I think it'd be interesting to see whether he goes for the formation change tomorrow night, and I think that could be an indicator. If he goes for the formation change tomorrow night and you see players like Mankio or Jamal Lewis play reasonably well, who both can play as left backs, Lewis is a wing back really, but he can play as a left back too, then I think you could see a switch to a 4. It's an interesting one. I see a lot of talk of people seeing so many players out of position. I don't necessarily see it like that. I don't see St Maximin as particularly being out of position, because essentially he's given a free role in this team, even though he's classed as a striker. Miguel Almiron is the one who is really out of position, doesn't suit him at all. Jacob Murphy is arguably out of position and isn't showing any signs this season in particular of growing into that position, even though he did make considerable steps last season. Is Matt Ritchie out of position? Possibly. But I think they'll probably try and stick with the system that they've got. But again, by the same token, I'm not trying to cover all bases here. I think tomorrow will be telling. If he switches to a 4, then you'll probably see a 4 on Saturday. But I'm kind of toying that one in my head at the moment. I've written a piece in the morning. Every match day, I'll put a piece out, and it's my team that I would pick. And
up on that website.
Yes, that one. NewcastleWorld.com. Check it out, and you'll get a little sense of why I'm sort of so torn on this. Because I'll just tell you, I've picked 4 at the back tomorrow. I would go 4 at the back. I think it's a perfect time to try and change that and experiment and just see if it works in the game with certain other players playing in their rightful positions.
Just to answer Chipper's question, yeah, no, still on home haircuts here. So yeah, it got a bit carried away last night. Say no more, Chipper. Yeah, and someone else pointing out Steve Bruce might go for 6 at the back tomorrow. I think that was John. Yeah, potential for that to happen as well, John. We are playing the mighty Burnley. Yeah, just want to also, before I forget as well, give a shout out to my own channel, and let me get rid of the comment here. 1 sec. Yes, you can subscribe to Loaded Mag or to Loaded HQ. Go to youtube.com/c/Loaded HQ, and in there you'll find loads of shows in our collection, and we've got a big one coming up this Friday, 7:00. You might have heard of this guy, Liam. Did you ever hear of Sean Cuscus?
Yeah.
So yeah, you will have seen him on viewers have seen him on either Sky Sports.
That's why you binned us off then. Is that why?
No, we're not binning you off at all. No. No, you're welcome back anytime, Liam. We're waiting on you to give us the thumbs up there. Yeah, so yeah, just let people know it's on Friday at 7. You have seen them on the Sunday supplement. You would have been great on that, Liam. It's a pity they cancelled that show.
Yeah, I would have quite enjoyed that. Yeah.
It's he's on Talksport as well. So come along, join us for that one. It should be good. He's a Newcastle fan, so we'll hear his side of the story. So that shall be good.
Get some top guests on your Friday night. Top guests. Honestly, anybody out there who doesn't watch Loaded Mag, you should. It's really good.
They heard the two exclusives there from Liam. You'll see it in Newcastle World tomorrow. There's something happening with the takeover potentially, and make sure to watch Loaded Mag. I think we'll call it there for the night, Liam. I'm missing a whole lot of comments as well, but we've done enough here. We've given enough information to everyone. So they should be happy with that. So yeah, 1 week left of the transfer window. We're hoping for some action. Matty Longstaff will probably go out and loan, which he needs, and hopefully leave some space in the squad, whether either they move aside the goalkeeper and make some room so we get some loan signings in. We don't think there's going to be permanent signings. We think they blew the budget on Willock. So let's see. Hopefully, there's something to keep an eye on last week. We need something to shore up that defense at least.
Yeah. It would be good to see them. It would be good to see them just go maybe sign a couple of loan deals would be perfect. But there seems like a real reluctance this summer to go out and do that and have players. I think there's been quite a big effort to get certain players off the wage bill, like Yoshinori Mutos, that kind of thing. There's been Henri Saives, these type of people that been hanging around, not in squads. Christine Atsu, the other. I think there's a reluctance to go down that avenue again, in sort of overpopulating the squad and leaving certain players outside of the 25. So look, I don't necessarily agree with that personally. I think they should go and try and improve the squad because you end up paying the wages of a bloke who sits outside the 25 for 6 months, but you sign somebody who then keeps you up. It's a no-brainer. It's penny pinching for the sake of it, in my opinion. But that seems to be their policy. And fingers crossed. Look, hopefully they do go out and sign one. I don't think Steve Bruce is absolutely resigned to nobody coming in. That's kind of the sense that I get from him. But I still think it's probably best filed in unlikely. At the moment. But as these things, I'm talking here on Tuesday night before next Tuesday, and things can change. Things can change very, very quickly in the transfer market. And I do actually think we'll see probably quite a busy, from the weekend onwards, I think we'll see quite a busy transfer market. I think there'll be a lot of people trying to do little bits and bobs because there hasn't been a whole load of signings in the Premier League this year. It's been quite quiet. I think Steve Bruce pointed towards it today. I think the Championship being a much depressed market. You often see the Championship being one of the markets which is one of the highest spending in Europe, up there with some of the bigger leagues. Not the case this year. There hasn't been any significant money spent in the second tier in England this year. That's ruled out anybody coming in for Jeff Hendrick, somebody coming in for...
That's not going to happen.
Somebody coming in for Dwight Gale or somebody like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Championship club.
It's kind of ruled out those moves that may have transpired if everybody's money had been flowing and not restricted because of COVID over the last 18 months. But look, it's not Newcastle only suffering with this. Newcastle United gave a brand new contract to Dwight Gale not long ago to protect an asset. And was that a good decision? Would they not have been better off cutting their losses and signing somebody that they want and somebody that they think can do a job at that level?
They would, and the only thing is as well, like they are kind of set up that they could potentially try and offload a few in the last week, but Charlie moves so slow, he'd never get anyone else signed. That's our problem, They build it up to allow that to happen, but then look, we've got pulling the strings.
Yeah, my prediction would be, I think we'll look. I think it's unlikely that they'll sign anybody, but I think they'll have a little nib. They might have a little nibble towards the end of the window. But I think a lot depends on the goalkeeper situation. If they're naming 4 goalkeepers, they're probably not signing anybody, which is it's ridiculous to even say that. But that's the Newcastle United reality we're living.
On that note, I think it's time to say goodbye. Thanks everyone for watching. Steve is back next week. I'm sure he's got a few more shows lined up for everyone this week as well. But tune in to Loaded Mag during the week on Friday night. And Liam, thanks for coming on. And we're going to definitely get you back on Loaded Mag.
Oh yeah,
Sean is only the warm-up act. You're the real thing.
That's what I like to hear, Daz.
Good night, everyone. See you later.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever